Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from Radnor Studio 21 in beautiful downtown Wayne. We like to clue you in as to what's happening in the legal world, the academic world, the music world, the charity world, anything that touches on all of our lives. And we always have some very interesting guests. And we have a real trailblazer with us in the studio today. And her name is Deborah Epstein Henry. She's the founder and president of Flex Time Lawyers. I don't mean flex your muscles, although she does that too, right, Debbie?
Absolutely.
But explain what Flex Time Lawyers is, because it's a brilliant, innovative concept that you came up with.
Oh, well, that's so generous. And I first want to start by thanking you, Bonnie, for this really generous invitation. I'm delighted to be here and have the opportunity to share the work that I'm doing. Flex Time Lawyers is a company I founded 13 years ago. I was practicing as a commercial litigator and really identified a need that lawyers like me who had young kids really needed a resource on work-life issues. So I started running events on work-life issues, and that developed into significant programming on both work-life and women's issues. And eventually I stopped practicing law and now have an international consulting practice where I work with legal employers and companies and nonprofits, as well as individual lawyers and other professionals, and really try to make a workplace more hospitable, improve work-life balance policies, and help with the retention and promotion of women.
Where did you go to law school?
I was in law school in Brooklyn Law School, and then I clerked actually in the Eastern District of New York for 2 years.
Are you a New York native?
I am a New York native.
But you've been in the main line for a long time, right?
I've been here 15 years, yes.
Okay. And where did you go for undergraduate work?
I was at Yale University.
You went to Yale.
Yes.
Was Yale a co-ed school when you went?
It was. I'm not that old.
No, thanks. Well, I remember when Yale was a boys' school.
Okay, forgive me. Yes, Yale was co-ed and actually went co-ed in 1969, yes.
Okay, I just missed it. That's why I went to Penn, because it was co-ed. And I started out in the College of Education because I didn't want to be in the college for women. I wanted to be where there were guys.
Good for you.
And but then in my junior year, they abolished the College of Education on an undergraduate level and made it a 5-year graduate program, which threw all of us in the College of Education into the College for Women. So my degree says College for Women. But it didn't change my classes or whatever, you know. And then I got a Master of Arts in English Literature, which I enjoyed, but which was a totally useless degree. It had nothing to do with what I was doing for, you know, for a living, and which changed also. But you're in the thick of a revolution, I think, with women asserting themselves in a lot of different professions, but particularly in the legal profession. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. There's tremendous need and dissatisfaction for change in the legal profession. And where I think the real opportunity presents is that the profession is otherwise going through a sea change. And so in making all of those other changes in how the legal profession is run and how legal services are delivered, I see it as a real opportunity to also improve the status of women in the profession.
When you discovered that you had really stumbled upon this idea of flex time, and then you wrote a best-selling book about it, right?
Yes.
What's the title of your book?
Law and Reorder.
I love it, Law and Reorder.
And it's really a big shift for me in writing the book and researching the book and then promoting it is a recognition that prior to my work involving the book, I thought really it's about women taking individual action steps to improve their status. And what I realized in researching the book is, yes, that's half of the challenges, but the other half is rethinking the way the legal workplace is structured, because that's the other piece of the puzzle. Is the environment hospitable enough that it enables a woman to thrive?
It's interesting you use the phrase work-life issues. For a lot of people, that's a brand new phrase, and they don't quite understand what it means. I had the benefit of reading your book and writing about it and interviewing you when your book first came out. But explain to our viewers what work-life issues really means.
It's really, and then there's so many issues with the term. A lot of people object to it. But what I'm trying to get at in using that term is the challenge of balancing the daily demands of responsibilities in the office and responsibilities outside of the office. Historically, work-life issues really, that term was really focused on women with young kids. That was kind of the classic demographic who addressed and reflected that issue.
Can't do it all. You can either have a career or you can have a family. You can't do it all.
Exactly. Now what's exciting to me as an advocate on these issues is that the work-life discussion is really moving in a different direction. Yes, it's still largely women who are availing themselves of work-life policies, but what's changed is that there are a lot more men and women who are raising their hand and looking for work-life opportunities and work-life balance for reasons other than parenting. And Gen Y in particular is pushing that agenda to have work-life balance for both a gender-neutral basis and also a reason-neutral basis, meaning beyond just parenting issues.
It's interesting because on the block where I live, there is a house husband. And I guess the wife, leaves early in the morning, goes to work. He takes care of the kids. You'll often see him walking them around the block, pushing them in a stroller, and he seems very happy and the wife seems very happy. And that's how they've worked out an accommodation, because I guess today you need quality childcare, but there's so little available and it's so costly when you find good quality childcare. I know that from my stint as president of the Terry Lynn Locoff Child Care Foundation. And we know how vital it is. And you talk to elected officials like Jim Roebuck, who is the chairman of the House Education Committee in our state legislature, and he knows, and all the studies show, that if you have children in a quality child care setting, it's early childhood education. It's not babysitting, not at all.
Right.
And you have to prepare them to be ready for school so they're ready to learn.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, if you've got a brain and you have a law degree and you want to work, what's the trade-off? How do you manage it?
I think what's really, the focal point for me in the work-life discussion is that people want to live an integrated life now, and they want to be significant contributors to their workplace. They want to succeed professionally, but they also want to play an integral role in their kids' lives, or they want to pursue their passions.
In the community.
Exactly. They want to be involved with their religious institutions. They want to give back to nonprofits. They want to be engaged in their community. And it's much more of an emphasis in people's lives to have outside commitments be as valued as their work commitments.
Are you involved in any charitable organizations? Do you have time to serve on a board?
I sit as an advisory board member to a number of nonprofits. So Pace Law School has an initiative to get women lawyers back to work. I'm on their advisory board. I'm also an advisor to a nonprofit called the Center for Talent Innovation, and they have a task force, and the mission is really to improve the status of women and people of color, and I've had the privilege to be their legal industry advisor for over a decade. So the work, I also consult to various bar associations. So the work that I do in an advisory or board capacity is really my pro bono work to contribute to different legal organizations or advocacy organizations.
Now the flex time concept is job sharing, it's doing some work from home by computer, it's having not 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, which a lot of law firms demand, regardless of what your responsibilities are outside the office.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I talk about flex time, that's a term that people use loosely, and a lot of people don't understand what you're referring to. When I use the term flex time, I'm talking about full-time flexibility, when people have more control in the way in which they work, but they're actually carrying a full caseload or working a full schedule. I use the term reduced hours rather than part-time, which I think is really a misnomer. And reduced hours is, just as it sounds, that lawyers or other professionals are working reduced work week, fewer hours a day, fewer days in the week, that sort of thing. What's interesting about the law firm model is actually it really affords a great opportunity for people to have more flexibility in the way in which they work. For lawyers who work a full-time schedule at a law firm, but they just want more flexibility to work from home at times and things like that, they're actually generating the same amount of revenue for the law firm because you can generate the same revenue wherever you bill your hours. So that's part of what I'm trying to push, is a recognition that this is a cultural issue. This is not an issue, even in that case, about revenue generation.
When's the last time you worked inside a law firm?
The last time I worked in a law firm was a Philadelphia firm.
Was it a happy experience?
You know, I worked at Schneider Harrison, and it was a very good place to work. And my law firm in New York was also a very good place. I enjoyed my colleagues. I took pride in getting a win for a client or that kind of thing. But law and litigation, which is the practice area I was in, just wasn't a passion for me. And what happened with me in developing a different career path was I found I constantly was talking to other women about, well, how do you play an integral role in your kids' lives and also be successful professionally? And I found everybody I spoke to, every woman who was similarly situated, was struggling with the same thing, whether they lawyers or other professionals, my college roommates, et cetera. And I sent an email one day in 1999 to 6 lawyers I knew and said, I'm starting a brown bag lunch group for lawyers interested in work-life issues. Forward the invite to anyone you know who's interested. And within a few days, 150 people emailed me back in response.
You sent out 6 emails and 150
Right.
people?
And I was a fairly new New York transplant. I was like, I didn't even know there were, 150 people in this city, let alone, lawyers interested in work-life balance. It wasn't even a term that really was being used at that time in any significant way. And I knew when I got that flood of response, I knew I had struck a nerve. I wasn't alone. And it was really took me some time to work on a pro bono basis to figure out how do I really respond to this need.
What brought you to the Philadelphia region? Was it your husband?
My husband had an opportunity actually originally with the Philadelphia Inquirer, and that brought us here, and then we've really enjoyed living here and have 3 kids, very involved in the community, so we've stayed.
Okay. What's your husband's first name?
Gordon.
I know
Sure
that
you've
name.
come across
Oh,
him.
yes, I know that name. Anyway, tell us about the relationship that you have with Working Mother magazine.
Sure. Working Mother is a magazine that has run an initiative called 100 Best Companies for Working Moms, and they've done it for over 25 years. And in 2006, I held an event in New York, and the CEO of Working Mother was my guest, and I went up to her afterwards and asked for a meeting at her company following that event. And I met with her company, and I said, you've run this really successful initiative, 100 Best Companies. How about we partner to run a similar initiative called Best Law Firms for Women? The idea was, rather than 100 Best Companies, which is, of course, across industry, the legal profession is such a competitive industry, and law firms are so similarly situated. My thought was, how do we make work life and women's issues a basis of competition among law firms, as historically had been the case, let's say, for salary? And Working Mother agreed, and we started the initiative in 2007. And every year we name the 50 best law firms for women, and we conduct a national survey of law firms, not just on their treatment of women in terms of work-life balance, but all different issues impacting women's success in the legal profession, like leadership and mentoring and
How about
networking.
childcare?
Childcare is an aspect of the survey, of course,
Sure.
as well. And so on an annual basis, we name the 50 best law firms for women, and then we also report on the industry trends on a yearly basis. So we take the aggregated data of our 50 winning firms, and we report on it. And it's a motivator, ideally, for other firms not only to compete to get on our list, but also to benchmark themselves and know they're above or below the industry standard.
What happens when a law firm is selected? Do they get an award? Is there a dinner, a luncheon?
Yes.
Do they get to meet Justin Bieber? I mean, what happens?
We couldn't go that far. We have a very big awards ceremony in New York. We usually have up to 500 attorneys. It's actually this year, December 5th, at a place called Cipriani in New York. And all the 50 winning firms send representatives, usually have a lot of tables, also send their clients. And then we have a half day of events. So this year we're having what's called a Career Accelerator Summit, and I'll moderate a panel discussion in the morning among 4 prominent general counsel. And
Wait, she's being modest. She's the moderator. You probably landed all the speakers as well, am I right?
I've worked with Working Mother on this.
Tell us the names of the people who are going to be on that panel.
Sure. It's Julie Sweet, who is the general counsel of Accenture. And
Accenture. What's probably the world's largest accounting firm.
Louis Steverson, the general counsel of Motorola Solutions. Of course, I'm blanking on the general counsel of Nickelodeon. Andra, her last name is escaping me, which is embarrassing. And then our fourth panelist is...
I just knew you had 4 biggies in corporate America.
Yeah, and I can't believe they're escaping me all of them.
Which is very exciting. And I'm sure you'll handle them brilliantly, as you always do.
Oh, well, that's generous of you.
How many copies of your book on Flex Time have you sold so far?
You know, that's a good question. I actually don't even know the answer to that. The book was the #1 best-selling ABA flagship book for 2011. It went into its second...
ABA stands for American Bar Association.
Thank you.
And they keep tabs on things like that.
Absolutely. The book went into its second printing, I think, within 4 months or something like that, and we're close to going on our third printing, but I don't actually have the numbers at the top of my head.
Now, way leads on to way, and you just revealed, before we started this interview, that you founded a second business a year and a half ago. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I actually have 2 partners in this business, and it really was an outgrowth of my research and promotion of the book. What I learned in researching the book is that increasingly general counsel, the heads of different legal departments, are dissatisfied with the way legal services are being delivered, and they're being forced to reduce their money that they use on their budgets for outside law firms. And so they're doing more work internally in their legal department, but they're also being pressured to not increase headcount. So the question is, how do they get this huge volume of work done without the help of outside firms and without new heads at their new headcounts at their legal departments?
And without killing their current employees
Exactly.
by saying 60 hours is not enough, you've got to work 80 hours, with leaving no time for living.
Exactly. So our company, which is called Bliss Lawyers, as in bliss as in happy, and our tagline is happy clients, happy lawyers. Our company actually places high caliber temporary lawyers in companies, in their legal departments, and they work on an extended basis. But what's different about our model is, first of all, they're high caliber lawyers, and but they're actually our employees. So they work at the client site, they work in these companies, but they're our W-2 employees, and we pay their salary, 401k, healthcare insurance, etc. What's exciting also is the company is majority women-owned, and we're certified as a women-owned business by WeBank. And we are finding that a lot of corporations, as I'm sure you would imagine, are wanting to increase their use of diverse suppliers. So we've had a lot of entree because of that. What's also exciting is the majority of our placements are women, and what often we're finding with our clients is they bring in our talent on a temporary basis, let's say for a year or so, and they have then all of a sudden get a budget to bring this person on a permanent basis. And so we've had this sort of what I'm calling backdoor diversity opportunity, where now we are placing women in high-level in-house legal departments. And it's been a win-win all the way around. So it's been really gratifying. And the other sort of thing that sort of justified how I got into this line of work is through the public speaking that I do and the work I do with the press. Over these 13 years of running Flex Time Lawyers, I have a national network of over 10,000 lawyers. And so it was just a natural to be able to find these people opportunities. So many of them are not well situated and some are looking to get back to work, some are in transition. So to be able to put them in these high-level in-house legal department roles that often will convert into permanent positions is truly gratifying. I've been speaking about industry change for over a decade, but to actually now be in a position where I'm facilitating change happening and a new legal model is really gratifying.
Do you see law schools changing their attitude towards women who want to enter the profession, especially when more than 50% of the students in any law school are female these days?
I don't really see law schools changing their approach with respect to women, with the exception of some of them just a handful have a re-entry program which helps women lawyers get back to work later on. But your question was about law students. I don't really see that as the crux of the problem. I see most women are thriving in law schools. There are some exceptions where women have decreased representation, for example, on law reviews and leadership roles in law reviews. So there are situations like that. Generally, what I'm seeing is the challenges start once they get into their respective jobs, and certainly when they start having kids, it really becomes that much more of an impediment.
Are you called upon to lecture at law schools?
I regularly work at law schools, and to me it's actually thrilling because I think it's a real opportunity to educate them about what they need to go into their job thinking. There's one program that I started actually at Yale Law School, and now I've done it at a number of law schools across the country, called Blueprinting Women for Success. And the idea is that it's not enough to just be good. You have to, what are the differences between those lawyers, or frankly any type of professional, those who thrive and those who wither? The ones who are thriving have not only the skills to be good and a talented practitioner, but they're also good at seeking leadership opportunities and navigating work-life challenges and pursuing mentoring relationships and being effective at self-promotion and being effective at networking. And the people who are able to distinguish themselves in that regard are really thriving. So the opportunity to reach law students, or I sometimes speak on college campuses, is thrilling because I feel like it's a way to hopefully guard against some of the challenges that their predecessors have faced.
Did you have any women mentors when you were either going to law school or first starting out at a law firm? Who were some of your idols?
Well, it's interesting. I had a law professor, Carol Ziegler, who was really wonderful to me and provided a lot of opportunities and guidance, and was just somebody I really connected with, and she was wonderful. When I went to my New York law firm, I was not there for that long before we relocated to Philadelphia. And in Philadelphia, I had a couple of mentors who were male. And I think it's an important piece of this is that advocacy for women doesn't mean at the exclusion of men.
I'm glad you pointed that out because a lot of women don't realize that you can have a mentor who's a man.
Oh, absolutely.
And who will be just as committed to making sure that a woman gets ahead as a woman mentor.
Yeah, actually the first feminist I ever knew is my father. And my father was a huge advocate that 2 of his 3 kids were daughters and are daughters. And he really said, I'll be sure that my daughters have the same opportunities as my son. And we had a situation when I was young where I was potentially not going to get an opportunity as a young girl, and my father actually advocated and ensured that I got that opportunity. So that's the model that I was raised with, although I was raised with a working mother, which I think helped me as well. But in any case, the reality is that men still hold most of the power in different companies and organizations, and if women preclude themselves from being mentored by men, they're really closing so many doors.
There aren't enough women role models to go around, not in corporate America anyway.
Absolutely.
You can name on one hand the female CEOs of Fortune 500 companies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Catalyst does their report every year.
Yes.
And the numbers are declining, not increasing. I don't know why, because when we look at the political spectrum, we were very fortunate that we have a number of new United States senators that are women,
right,
which is very encouraging.
Absolutely.
Which is exciting. Then you look at the Pennsylvania State Legislature, and it's like, it's going back to the Flintstone era. I mean, we have one of the most backward state legislatures. We deserve better. We really do. And we deserve to have more women well, we did elect Kathleen Kane as the first woman attorney general. So that's a biggie.
It is a biggie.
For a state like Pennsylvania. It really is. That's exciting.
Absolutely.
Are there other women that you look to and say, she's forging ahead, she's creating a path for people, for women?
It's interesting. I mean, I've been recently asked this question, and I think often about my mother. So you're probably looking for somebody famous or that kind of thing.
That's okay.
My mother, I really modeled my career off around her, and it was, in my mind, she had 3 children, and she was very involved in our lives, but she was developing her career in the process. And so I've really
What was
tried
your
to
mother's
model.
career?
She's a psychologist. She actually still practices. And she actually devised her schedule when we were young to work, school hours. I call them bus stop hours. And really, when my kids were young, I tried to mirror that and tried to really be able to take them to the bus and then work as much as I could before they came home and be able to shuttle them around when I can and when I'm not traveling and things like that. And so that was really a model that I looked to and that I think enabled me to have the confidence to go out on my own and be able to create my own schedule and my own company.
Is your husband approving? He must be, or you wouldn't still be living with him.
He's very supportive. He always has been, and he's been.
Did he change diapers when the kids were little?
Of course, yes.
Well, don't say of course, because there are a lot of husbands out there who to this day are not liberated enough to change diapers.
No, he's very involved in the kids' lives, and he's been really helpful to me as well. He used to be a professional writer, and so when I wrote my book, my childhood very close friend edited my book, and my husband edited my book, and he's not a lawyer, and it was just super generous. So he's very involved in, obviously, my life, but also, of course, the kids' lives.
Are you working on another book now?
I am not. Have my hands full
You're
with my
swamped
consulting practice and my business. It was a tall order to write that book, and I'm thrilled I did it. And I think as a consultant and somebody who does national speaking, public speaking, it's important at a certain point to have written that book so that
Sure.
you can hand it to a client and say, this is everything I want to tell you, and you can take it with you, kind of thing. And it's an important process also to really frame out your ideas and solidify your thoughts on things. When putting pen to paper kind of forces you to really take things to the next level. So, but I don't have aspirations to write another one anytime soon. And
do you have any time for tennis or golf or, I don't know, or swimming or exercise or?
Yeah, I mean, exercise actually is a huge part of my life. I started running when I was 4 years old with my father, and I played sports all the way through college. So athleticism is a really big part of my life, and that's the one thing that really, outside of the kids and outside of work and family, and my girlfriends who are very important to me, that is a priority that I spend ideally every day getting in some sort of exercise because it's an outlet and it's, the healthy thing to do and it's basically an escape for me.
Let's give people Deborah Epstein Henry's phone number or email address or your website. Which would you like to give them?
The website's probably the best
Okay.
resource, and I can actually give you 3, or they can just Google them. But FlexTime Lawyers is the original consulting firm I founded, which is flextimelawyers.com. The book I wrote, Law and Reorder, has its own website, lawandreorder.com. And the new company that I have 2 partners with is called Bliss Lawyers, and that's blisslawyers.com.
She makes it very simple. She makes it easy to find her. That's terrific. And if you wave a magic wand, what would you like to be doing like 5 years from now?
Oh, you know what? I really...
or you just take it as it
I
goes?
absolutely love what I do, and I just hope it kind of continues in this direction and grows. And I also hope that I can continue to make sure that I have time to spend with all the people in my life who I love.
Okay. Our guest today has been Deborah Epstein Henry, author, lawyer, genius, and thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. I can't thank you enough for your generosity.
And good luck with your big thing in New York.
Thanks again.
We'll see you next week.